Bovine diseases caused by poxvirus. So for cattle, there are 3 genuses and 4 diseases. They're all under the Poxvirinae. And you have the Orthopox genus, the Paropox genus, and the Capripox genus. The Orthopox genus has cowpox, the Paropox genus has pseudocowpox and bovine papipular stomatitis, and the Capripox genus has lumpy skin disease. General characteristics of poxviruses. So they're a linear double-stranded DNA virus. It has a very big genome. It codes for lots of genes. This is good because you can have recombinant vaccines. The resistance is good. It can last years or months due to scabs. Animals can have lifelong immunity except for parapox virus. The replication occurs in the cytoplasm with its own viral polymerase. In mammals, it's called Guarini. And in birds, it's called Bollinger. The virus is mainly local skin infections, but some can generalize. For the pathogenesis of the disease, so it's the same. It spreads through local skin infections. So contact through the lesions on the animal can lead to primary replication and local replication within the skin mucous membrane. There are 7 phases that need to be known. Think of EPV, PCDH. So number 1 is erythematus, which is the reddening. Number 2 is papillosum, which is proliferation. Number 3 is vesiculosum, which is when it fills with fluid. Number 4 is pustulosum. Number 5 is crusts, so it's when the pustule ruptures and it can heal and have erosion. Number 6 is decrustation, which is a scab. It's a shedding of the epithelial cells. And number 7 is healing. This can take weeks. Animals can have a pockmark or no pockmark. So the first genus of the Poxvirinae is the Orthopoxvirus genus. It has 1 disease, cowpox. The occurrence is worldwide, it's sporadic and it's uncommon, but it's mainly in the EU. The etiology of the disease is the cowpox virus. It's part of the Orthopoxvirus genus and it's closely related to variola virus, which is smallpox. The epidemiology, it's a Uriaxin virus, so the primary host is cattle, the main reservoir is rodents, but it can also infect cats, humans, seals, elephants, and it's shed through contact in local infections mainly. It can happen in milking, so it's a zoonotic disease, and through rodents and arthropods. The disease can generalize in the immune system of animals, but this is rare. Animals can have lifelong immunity and maternal antibodies protect the calves. So the clinical signs. In cows, it affects the mouth, genitals, and udder. It can cause hemorrhagic erosions, crust, and these are painful. It can heal within 1 month, but it leaves a pockmark, and secondary infections cause a more severe lesion. In other susceptible animals, so rodents, you can see mouth lesions. In cats, you can see general flu-like symptoms, plus skin lesions and eye and mouth lesions. In humans, we can see milker nodules. They're on the hand, they're round, purplish nodules. And elephants and seals have been found with the virus due to rodents in zoos. For the diagnosis, just look at the clinical signs and histopathology to see the cytoplasm inclusion bodies. Use a PCR, isolation, IF, and ELISA. The differential diagnosis is bovine herpes mammallitis and also pseudocowpox. The treatment and prevention, so you separate the milking and be gentle when you milk them, disinfect milking cups and disinfect the lesions, and use rodent control. And also have protective clothing for the milker, and you can use antibiotic ointments. So the next genus is Paropox genus, and it has pseudocowpox and also has bovine papipular stomatitis. So pseudocowpox, the occurrence is worldwide, it's more common. The etiology is the pseudocowpox virus. It is a big antigen, and animals that are vaccinated only have 6 months immunity, so vaccines have to be every 6 months. For the epidemiology, it's more synoxin opposed to the cowpox virus, which is uroxin. The pseudocowpox virus affects cattle and humans, and it's zoonotic. It has itchy red nodules on the hands. But it's not transmitted by rodents. There's no lifelong immunity. It's a milder form, but there can be reinfection due to short immunity, and the virus spreads slowly. For the clinical signs, it's a more milder virus. It affects the teat and udder mainly. It's not hemorrhagic and it's not painful. It leaves pustules, crusts, but no pockmark and healing. The treatment, pathology, and diagnosis are the same as cowpox. The next Paropox virus is bovine papipular stomatitis. It's zoonotic and the occurrence is worldwide and it is widespread. The etiology is the bovine papular stomatitis virus, which is part of the Poxvirus genus. For the epidemiology, it's often seen as a co-infection with BVD, and this leads to immunosuppression. It is spread through saliva, so through the feed trough. It's a seasonal disease, and it's more common in warmer spring or early summer. And it's a mild disease, and it's seen in younger cattle. The clinical signs are erosions of the mucous membranes in the oral cavity and nasal cavity, and on the tongue. It also affects the hard and soft palate, and it affects salivation. There is no fever, and the differential diagnosis is foot and mouth disease. And the last genus of the Poxvirinae is the Poxvirus genus. It has one disease, which is lumpy skin disease. It's a notifiable disease. The occurrence is in sub-Saharan Africa. The etiology is the lumpy skin disease virus, which is from the Poxvirus genus. And the epidemiology is the susceptible animals are cattle, especially Jerseys and Holsteins when they're young, buffalo, and wild living ruminants. These are the reservoirs for the disease. And goats and sheep are not as susceptible through natural infection. The problem with this disease is it causes great economic loss. The antigen is very similar to the goat and sheep pox virus. It's an arbovirus, so arthropods are the most important for the spread. They're mechanical vectors, such as the mosquito and the horsefly. It can also be spread in the semen, saliva, and respiration discharge. And generalized pox viruses have lifelong immunity. The pathogenesis of the disease is lesions in the skin are caused by an arthropod bite. This is where the primary replication takes place, at the site entry. So the virus enters intradermally, and then it goes to the regional lymph node, and then it leads to viremia and generalization. And it mainly affects the mucous membranes and the respiratory tract and the GI tract and the organs, but mostly the mucous membranes. For the clinical signs, the incubation takes weeks. It mainly affects young cattle. Firstly, the general clinical signs are enlarged lymph nodes, fever, anorexia, lethargy, decreased milk production, cough, and nasal discharge. In the respiratory system, nodules cause mucopurulent discharge, and in the skin we can see circumscribed round nodules on the head and neck, and on the udder, and in the nasal and oral cavity. Since it's on the skin, it can decrease hide value, and abortion can occur if there's an intrauterine infection. For the pathology, we can see black crusts on the parenchymal organs, just like in sheep and goat pox. The lung can be infected and it causes interstitial pneumonia. The diagnosis and control are very important because it's a notifiable disease. For the diagnosis, you look at the clinical signs, but you have to detect the agent because it's obligatory since it's a notifiable disease. You can find it directly through PCR and virus isolation, or indirectly through serology, viral neutralization, and ELISA. For viral neutralization, you can do a cross-reaction with sheep and goat pox virus. And for control, in the EU, you follow the general epidemiology measures, so eradication and vector control. There are vaccines, but you're prohibited to export when you vaccinate them. This is because the vaccine is a recombinant sheeppox virus. In endemic areas, there's a long-lasting immunity. Export is prohibited, and there's only an attenuated vaccine only.